Hello, coin enthusiasts. Welcome back to your go-to channel for fascinating coin stories and numismatic treasures. Today, we're diving deep into the history, significance, and details of the 1961 USA 1-cent coin, a little copper treasure that holds a big story. Stick around to learn everything about its circulation history and why it's still a beloved piece for collectors. On the obverse side, we have the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. This design first appeared in 1909 to commemorate Lincoln's 100th birthday and has since become one of the longest-running designs in U.S. coinage. Behind Lincoln's shoulder, you'll see the "In God We Trust" motto, along with the word "Liberty" on the left and the minting year 1961 on the right. Moving to the reverse, we see the wheat ears design, a simple yet elegant tribute to agriculture in the United States. The words 1 cent and United States of America are prominently displayed, along with the Latin phrase e pluribus unum above. The 1961 penny was made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, weighing 3.11 grams. It has a diameter of 19 minutes and a plain edge. The 1961 penny was minted during a time of economic growth and cultural transformation in the United States. Over 1.750 billion pennies were produced across two mints. With such a massive mintage, the 1961 penny was a workhorse of American commerce. These coins circulated widely, passed through countless hands, and were a staple in daily transactions. During the early 1960s, a loaf of bread cost around 20 cents, and a gallon of gas was just 31 cents. This penny, though small in value, played a significant role in every corner of American life. From corner stores to vending machines, let's talk about what makes the 1961 penny interesting for collectors. While it's not a rare coin due to its high mintage, certain features and variants make it worth examining closely. Look closely at the lettering on both sides of the coin. Some 1961 pennies show doubling, particularly on the date or inscripti. These appear as raised lines on the coin and are caused by worn dies. Off-center strikes. These occur when the coin isn't properly aligned during striking, and today, these errors can increase the value of a 1961 penny significantly. So it's worth taking a magnifying glass to your collection. Now for the big question. How much is a 1961 penny worth today? In circulated condition, most 1961 pennies are only worth. Uncirculated coins, or those with errors, can fetch higher prices. While the monetary value might not be sky-high, the historical and sentimental value makes the 1961 penny a cherished piece among collectors and history buffs alike. Whenever we wrap up, here are some fun facts about the 1961 penny and the Lincoln Cent series. Lincoln Cent is the first U.S. coin to feature a real person's portrait. In 1961, pennies were primarily used for everyday transactions, but many ended up in jars, piggy banks, or as part of coin collections. Due to their high copper content, pre-1982 pennies, like the 1961 coin, are often sought after for their intrinsic metal value. So, there you have it, the story of the 1961 USA 1-cent coin. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just getting started, this penny is a reminder of America's rich history and the role of small coins in shaping daily life. If you have a 1961 penny in your collection, take a closer look. Who knows? You might be holding a piece of numismatic treasure. Well, let's start with the design. The 1-cent coin from 1980 features the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner back in 1909 to commemorate Lincoln's 100th birthday. This design has been a staple of the penny ever since. On the reverse, we see the Lincoln Memorial, added in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. The reverse design was created by Frank Gasparo. If you look closely at the memorial on the reverse, you can even see a tiny depiction of Lincoln's statue inside. This coin is made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, which gives it that reddish hue. However, 1980 was one of the last years this composition was used. By 1982, pennies switched to a zinc core with just a thin copper coating to cut production costs. 1980 was a busy year for the U.S. Mint. A staggering 12.4 billion pennies were produced. That's right, over 12 billion. These coins were minted in two locations, Philadelphia and Denver. If you have a 1980 penny, look for the mint mark under the year. A D means it was minted in Denver, while no mint mark indicates it came from Philadelphia. Coins from both mints were heavily circulated. They were used in daily transactions across the United States, from grocery stores to vending machines. By the 1980s, the 1-cent coin had already become a vital part of American commerce, despite its purchasing power diminishing due to inflation. To put things into perspective, in 1980, a penny could buy more than it does today. For example, a candy bar might cost around 25 cents, so 25 of these pennies could satisfy your sweet tooth. In 1980, a penny could still be made for less than its face value. However, by the early 1980s, rising copper prices meant the metal in a penny was worth more than 1 cent. This led to the material change in 1980 to now. Let's talk value. Most 1980 pennies you'll find today are worth just their face value, if they're in circulated condition. However, uncirculated coins, especially those with a bright, shiny luster, can be worth more. For example, a 1980 penny in mint state can fetch anywhere from 25 cents to a few dollars, depending on its grade. High-grade specimens graded by professional companies like PCGS or NGC can even go for higher prices. Exercises and varieties are another exciting area for collectors. Look for misstrikes, double dies, or off-center errors. These can significantly increase a coin's value. Here's a fun challenge for all of you watching. The Lincoln cent has been a staple in U.S. currency since its introduction in 1909. Designed by Victor David Brenner, it was the first U.S. coin to feature the portrait of a president, Abraham Lincoln. By 1976, the cent had already been in circulation for nearly 7 decades, making it an everyday part of American life. So what makes the 1976 Lincoln cent stand out? So let's explore its historical context and production. 1976 was a special year in American history. It marked the bicentennial of the United States, celebrating 200 years of independence. While the 1-cent coin didn't receive a special commemorative design like the quarter, half-dollar, and dollar coins, it was still a key player in daily commerce during this historic year. The Lincoln cent may not have been flashy in design for the bicentennial, but its role as the backbone of small transactions in America made it just as important. In 1976, the U.S. Mint produced over 4.6 billion Lincoln cents, split between the Philadelphia and Denver mints. Here's the breakdown. With numbers like these, it's no surprise that the 1976 Lincoln cent became one of the most common coins in circulation. But despite their abundance, these coins are still worth examining closely. By 1976, the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gisparo in 1959. The coin was composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc, a composition that remained unchanged until 1982, when the rising cost of copper prompted a switch to a copper-plated zinc core. Interestingly, the copper composition gives these coins a distinct reddish-brown appearance, and it also makes them heavier than modern cents. The 1976 Lincoln cent was used extensively in everyday transactions. From buying candy to paying parking meters, it was a coin that millions of Americans handled daily. Its sheer ubiquity made it a symbol of trust in the U.S. These coins were so common that almost every household had a jar of pennies tucked away. But while most people didn't think twice about them, coin collectors were already paying attention. Because the 1976 Lincoln cent was minted in such large quantities, most circulated coins hold little additional value beyond their face value. However, uncirculated and high-grade specimens can be worth more to collectors. Coins in mint state condition, especially those with a grade of MS-65 or higher, can fetch anywhere from $5 to $10 at auctions. Proof coins, and struck in San Francisco for collectors, can be worth even more, depending on their condition. Its fair share of minting errors, which are highly sought after by collectors. Some examples include, so the next time you're going through your change jar, keep an eye out for these rare errors. Who knows, you might just have a hidden treasure. While the 1976 penny may not be the rarest or most valuable coin out there, it holds a unique place in history as a reminder of America's bicentennial year. Its enduring design and robust circulation make it a timeless piece of U.S. numismatic history. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just starting out, the 1976 Lincoln cent is a must-have for your collection. Its story is a small but important part of America's rich heritage. The 19841 coin, also known as the penny, is one of the many fascinating coins in the long history of U.S. currency. This small but mighty coin has been a part of American life for over 200 years, but today we'll focus on its circulation history in 1984 specifically. What makes this year's penny so interesting? The U.S. 1-cent coin, also called the penny, was first minted in 1793. Over the years, it's undergone several design changes, but by 1984, it was well known for featuring the iconic portrait of President Abraham Lincoln. This design, created by Victor David Brenner, has been in use since 1909 and continues to be a significant part of American currency by 1984. The coin had already seen decades of changes in both its design and composition. The reverse side of the coin, which once featured a wheat stalk design, was changed in 1959 to the famous Lincoln Memorial, a symbol of Lincoln's legacy and the strength of the nation he helped preserve. In 1984, this design was still in place, and it would remain unchanged until 2009, when a new design was introduced for the 200th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. In 1984, the 1-cent coin was an essential part of daily life. It was primarily used for small transactions, especially in widespread use. The penny was also a coin that many people often found inconvenient due to its low purchasing power. It's hard to imagine today, but the 1-cent coin used to have much more buying power in the past. Back in 1984, the value of a penny was slightly higher than today. In fact, 1 cent in 1984 was worth about 2.5 times more than it is today, thanks to inflation. For example, a penny could still buy a piece of gum or a small snack from a vending machine, something we wouldn't even dream of today with rising prices. However, the 1984 penny was facing a challenge: the increasing cost of production. In 1984, the U.S. Mint was spending more to produce pennies than they were worth. This issue would become even more pressing in later years. But in 1984, the penny was still widely circulated, both in the pockets of everyday Americans and in banks for daily transactions. Let's take a step back and look at the economic situation in the U.S. in the 1980s. The country was in the midst of an economic recovery after a tough period of stagflation in the late 1970s and early 1980s. Ronald Reagan had taken office in 1981, and his economic policies focused on reducing inflation and taxes. Despite the recovery, the country was still feeling. The penny's production cost was a growing concern. In 1984, the U.S. Mint faced the dilemma of producing a coin that cost more to make than its face value. The cost of copper and zinc, the two main metals used in the penny, was on the rise, which meant that the U.S. Mint was spending more money to produce pennies than the coins were actually worth. While this wasn't a new issue for the U.S. Mint, it did prompt ongoing debates about the future of the penny. This issue of cost would continue to be a talking point for years to come, and some people began to question whether the penny should even be phased out. But in 1984, the debate was still brewing. The penny remained in high demand, particularly because of its use in daily transactions. Today, the 1984 penny is a piece of American history. Though it may not be worth much in today's economy, it remains a sought-after coin among collectors. Due to its widespread circulation, most 1984 pennies can be found in good to circulated condition. However, some special versions of the penny, like those with die errors or unique features, can be worth more than their face value. If you're a coin collector or just interested in the history of American currency, the 1984 penny can be a fun. The 1989 penny was minted with the familiar design that many of us recognize today: President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse facing right, with the motto, "In God We Trust," and the year 1989 inscribed. Below Lincoln's portrait, you'll find the words Liberty, symbolizing the freedom the coin represents, and the mint mark, indicating where it was made. The reverse side features the famous Lincoln Memorial, which has been in use since 1959, designed by Frank Gaspall. On the reverse, we also see the words E pluribus unum, which translates to "out of many, one pendicon," a reminder of the unity of the United States. The late 1980s were an interesting time for the U.S. economy. In 1989, the country was coming off of the recession of the early 80s and entering into a period of economic recovery. This was a time when inflation was being kept under control and the economy was experiencing moderate growth. In terms of coinage, the U.S. Mint was operating at full speed, trying to keep up with the demand for circulating coins. The penny, while not as heavily scrutinized as other denominations, still played an essential role in everyday transactions. Interestingly, by 1989, the penny was facing some scrutiny due to its cost of production, which at times exceeded its face value. In 1989, the 1-cent coin was still very much in circulation and used in a wide variety of daily transactions, whether for small purchases at the corner store, vending machines, or simply as change. The penny was common in the pockets of Americans. However, there was growing debate during this time about whether the penny was still necessary. The cost to produce the penny was rising, and many questioned its practicality, especially with inflation creeping up. In fact, by the end of the 1980s, it cost more than a cent to make each penny, thanks to rising material costs, mainly due to the rising price of copper. Virtually all FMC cents were being spent by the price of DES. Despite these concerns, the penny continued to circulate and was minted in large numbers. Over 5.5 billion pennies were produced in 1989, and the demand was expected to continue to grow as the population and economy expanded. You might be wondering, what exactly is this coin made of? Well, the 1989 penny, like its predecessors since 1982, was composed of 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper. This change in composition happened after 1982 skyrocketed, and the U.S. Mint had to find a more cost-efficient material for producing the penny. Interestingly, this shift in composition made the penny lighter and cheaper to produce, but it also changed the way the penny looked and sounded. The metallic clink of older copper pennies was replaced with a higher-pitched ring from the zinc-based coin. Over the years, many people have commented on how the 1989 penny, along with others from this period, has a different feel compared to earlier copper pennies. Aside from its role in the economy, the 1989 penny, like many U.S. coins, holds a place in American culture. It's a symbol of everyday life, and for some collectors, it's an important piece of American numismatics. The penny has long been a favorite among hobbyists. Even though the value of a single penny is low, its abundance makes it a staple in coin collections. The 1989 penny, though not particularly rare, is still an important coin for anyone trying to complete a collection from the 1980s, or exploring the different years of Lincoln Memorial reverse pennies. Additionally, the penny has appeared in various aspects of American folklore and humor. Many people still have the saying, "Find a penny, pick it up and all." You might find them listed for a few cents to $1 in a collector's market, but don't expect to get rich from holding on to them. If you happen to find a rare error penny from 1989, such as one with a misstruck design, you could potentially sell it for more. But in general, the 1989 penny remains a coin that's very much part of everyday life and is commonly found in circulation. The 1989 1-cent coin represents more than just a small denomination in American currency. It tells a story of economic change, debates over currency production, and the cultural significance of a coin that has been part of the American landscape for centuries. Although the penny's future remains, or do you think it's time for them to go? Until next time, thanks for watching. Uncertain, the 1989 version holds a place in the hearts of collectors, historians, and everyday citizens alike. Whether you use it to pay for your morning coffee or collect it as part of a larger set, the 1989 penny is a reminder of how currency connects us to the past. That's it for today's deep dive into the 1989 penny. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about the penny. Do you still use them?